What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, February 19th, 2024. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 260. Phil, I have to ask, I know you are in retail. Are you off of work today like I am?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so, but I figured I'd toss out the question.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we get time and a half or a paid holiday, but we still have to work it. So the money's nice at times. I don't think this is one of those holidays. I don't know which ones are which. I don't really pay attention if the paycheck goes up a little bit and yay, but taxes pretty much eliminate any kind of bonus anyway. So, yeah, but no, I am working currently if you're listening to this on Monday.
And I'm likely playing disc golf right now. I know it's
you guys
snowing.
are so ridiculous with this disc golf nonsense.
Well, you should give it a try, and then it might not be nonsense to you.
No,
it's snowing.
It's a lot of fun, but you guys go too hard. We're in the middle of a pretty much winter storm right now, and you guys are gearing up to play disc golf. I don't know. It's just
This will be the third
really
time. Third time we've gone this year. The first two times there was no snow on the ground and it was kind of like nice weather. This one will be interesting because I feel like there's still going to be snow on the ground, and if I lose a disc, I'm going to blame Mike P real hard because he's the one pushing to go so much. Like if the offer's out there, I'm going to take advantage of it.
I mean, I guess that's
But I'm not looking forward to trudging through snow. I'm going to have to find my wool socks again because I had put those away because there was no snow on the ground for the longest time.
You guys should I don't know if there's any hills, but you guys should do some sledding trick shots.
We're going to Ellicott Creek, so there should be.
There you go. Take a sled, and as you go down the hill, whip the disc. Whoever gets closest wins.
Although last time we went sledding at Ellicott Creek when you brought your drones and almost killed a child, that was the time where I took my sled off that jump, and we have the pictures of me pretty much breaking my back because I just landed squarely on it, and that was probably the most pain I have ever been in my entire life. But we got great pictures.
What were you on? As well?
I was on one of those saucer ones, but remember when I hit the thing, it broke?
I forgot that was the saucer. I thought that was the blow-up unicorn that we also had with us.
That probably wouldn't have hurt as bad because there would have been cushion. I landed on pure ice, and then the thing broke when I hit the jump. We have great pictures of it, so maybe I can find those and post them, but... Yeah, you can see in my facial expression, because Pat was really good with the camera, I'm going, oh no, this is really going to hurt when I land. And I was right. It really did. So if you have any
sledding... were had by some of us.
Yeah, sometimes I was having a great time until that moment, and then you guys wanted to keep going. I'm like, I can't physically move. I'm going to just stand off to the side. But if you have any sledding stories yourself of pain or awesome trick shots, you can follow us and let us know on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow us on our channels wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article will be out on Tuesday for the Bandits Halifax game that we're about to dive into, plus any other details that he brings up in his articles that we do not touch on this show. My article for week 13... Wow, 13 already, Phil. That's insane. Of the NLL season power rankings will be out on Thursday, and then look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We'll only have 2 segments on this one. Bandits versus Halifax. We were at Tap That Tap Room to watch it with a bunch of other Bandits fans, and our emotions were the same as theirs. They lost 14-12. Bucky had 3. Kluch, Byrne, Frazier, and Smith each had 2. Priolo had 1. Vince, 38 of 52 saves. Shots were 52 to 48 in favor of Halifax. Faceoffs 31-0 for Halifax, and it got everybody's panties in a bunch on that one, and we'll talk about that in a second. Halifax 4 of 6 on the power play. Buffalo 1 of 4. But Phil, what are your takeaways from this defeat of the Halifax Thunderbirds?
Just bad.
Yep.
There's no consistency with this team at all, which is one of the big issues I think we've seen throughout the entire season. I know the defense is playing just awful right now, but throughout like the first half, second half consistencies are just gone. Like they're all over the place for the entire season. Like early in the season, we were asking for them to start games much, much better because they struggled to start games, and then would have to fight their way back in the second half, which they would by shutting teams down and having a lot of offense, and somehow they'd come out with big wins. And now in, these last few games, they've come out really well in the first half, which is great, but now they have no idea all of a sudden how to play with a lead, and they get demolished in the second half. The third quarter is terrible, and the last 3 games they've had fourth quarter meltdowns as well, which they kind of did again in this one. Not as bad as some of the other ones, but still you let the team come back and win in the fourth quarter, and the third quarter was terrible. So there's just the consistency throughout the entire season so far with this team is just not there. They just cannot play a full game, whether it's the first half or the second half. The entire season for the most part, one half has been bad. Whether it's the first or the second, they seem to have flipped it now in the last few games where the first half's doing good, second half's doing bad, but just play a full game. I don't know why this team is struggling so much. Last year they were extremely good out of halftime with adjustments, and again, these last few games, other teams seem to have their number in the second half. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this team. I mean, Halifax, by your and my standards, they are either a top 3 team, top 4 team. Either way, they're really good. We knew they were really good. So losing 14-12, if you want to take any kind of positive, isn't the worst, loss in the world, but you should not have lost this game when you are up 8-2 to start it and just could not finish it out or close at all. So very frustrating for a very close loss against a good team.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll go through it really quick. They were up 4-2 after the first, 8-2 with 5:52 left in the second quarter, and then Halifax would score 4 straight and 7 in the next 8 to tie it 9-9 after 3. It's just it's you've heard it from the players on multiple occasions where they have yet to play a full 60 minutes, and this adds to it. They've yet to play a full 60 minutes. Coming out of the game and going into, like I said, 5:58 left in the second quarter, we were all sitting there at the table drinking and eating and watching the game just going, man, they just chased Warren Hill. They're bringing in their backup who has not had a ton of time in between the post in his NL career. They're looking good. Like, this is a good-looking team right now. They're on a roll. And then Halifax would just keep scoring and scoring and scoring, and the offense disappeared, and the defense started choking. I thought the defense for nearly 25 minutes was incredible. I thought they were playing a really, really good game. The communication was great. The switch-offs were great, like we were talking about, where they have these good runs where you see what they're capable of. And then it just all falls apart. Like, I don't understand how a championship team that is the defending champions, and believe me, I get it that when you're the champions, everybody's gunning for you. You're getting every single team's best effort. I get that. I completely understand it. But you're the champions for a reason. You shouldn't be having these blips in every single game. Like, have they had a full 60-minute game since maybe the San Diego game, where it was the home opener, where we were worried about how their emotions would be in the first quarter, and they were able to withstand it? And I thought that was their best overall game, and that was their second game of the year. Like,
yeah, I think Colorado, the fourth game where they won 12-8, and Colorado had like one good quarter in the second half when it was pretty much over already. That one was also really, really good. But since then,
right, but they still had
that in the fourth game of the season.
Right, they still had a blip on their radar. Right, I'm thinking like
true.
A full 60 minutes of them playing full on.
Right.
It was their second game of the year, and they haven't been able to do it since. Phil, in 6 of the 9 games they've played, they've allowed 12 or more goals. And I can understand a bunch of people are complaining about Matt Vince, where I don't think he has played at the level he has in years past. Is he still a top 5 goaltender in the league? By far. Yes, 100%. But he hasn't been able to bail out his defense as he's done in the past. And is that due to his age? Is that due to just the wear and tear on his body of playing multiple playoff games at his age? Don't know. Really know what the issue is. But it's the defense for me that's just, something needs to change, in my opinion. Like, we've let it go on for far too long. Maybe we haven't been as hard on the defense as we probably should have been. But this defense, there needs to be some kind of change. There needs to be players coming back off the PUP, like Frank Brown, Zach Belter. All we've heard was they're close. And are they actually close, or is this just a team that's afraid to make a move because they're loaded? Like, why isn't Nanticoke put on the IR? Or he's on the IR, but why didn't you send Christian Watts to the PUP? Why didn't you activate one of these other players so you have room? Like, there's plenty of moves that this team can do to shake up the defensive end, and they didn't. And I'm not trying to harp on Emerson Clark over and over and over again, but you had 8 forwards in this game. 8. 4 on each side. That's, in my opinion, and I've said this on the show multiple times, the rotation of the forward groups gets flustered when you have that many pieces that are rolling out there. Like, for every Emerson Clark shift, that's one less Josh Byrne or Chris Cloutier shift. For every Christian Watts shift, that's one less Dane Smith or Chase Frazier or Kyle Buchanan shift. And again, that's no shot at either of those players, Clark or Watts, because in the grand scheme of things, they're a small role player. But you're taking shifts away from your top stars where you're pulling Carter McKenzie off of the field and putting him in the press box to get Emerson Clark out there for an 8th. Your offense isn't the problem. Your defense has been the problem, and you're making some of the star players on defense like Ian McKay and Nick Weiss and Steve Perilla play more shifts because you're taking a defender off the field and putting him in the press box. That's one of the main issues I have with the coaching decisions right now is I don't understand the need and the want to have 8 forwards out there when it comes back to bite you, and your defense is the part that's killing you right now when it wasn't the offense.
Yeah, I would love to add more to that, but everything you were saying is everything I agree with. I don't understand. And again, this isn't trying to take shots at Emerson Clark, but to us, he does not fit this team, or at least right now, he does not fit a need on this team to be in the active lineup. And his entire stat line was 1 turnover. That was it. No shots, no loose balls. Christian Watts at least had 1 shot on goal, 3 loose balls, and
he
1
did draw
turnover,
a penalty. He did draw a penalty, but that's one thing.
But like you said, it's just another, like, I don't know. He's
not big enough to set those picks and set those lanes like Brandon Robinson is. Give Brandon Robinson those shifts. Like,
right, that's the other thing.
The
like,
one thing I don't understand. Yeah.
Like you were talking about Cloutier and Byrne, you're taking a shift away from them, but you're also taking shifts away from Brandon Robinson, who can set those lanes a lot better than Clark can. So, and like you mentioned, in a game like this, like Christian Watts, again, he's a straight up replacement for Nanticoke. Like that, at least you have an injured forward. That's why he's in. On the left side, they really don't, just because Brad McCulley's gone, so you don't have that 4th forward on the left side. So there's no reason to force somebody into the lineup to be that 8th forward when you have a defense that's struggling and you have a player like Carter McKenzie that you healthy scratch when your defense, more than anything, needs any kind of help they can get, even if it's, I mean, you and I think, both like Carter McKenzie. I don't think he's incredible, one of the best defenders in the league, but I think he's very solid for what he does. And even if you can get a rotational defender just to keep some extra fresh legs on the back end, because they looked slow, they looked like out of sync, their communication looked terrible. The way Halifax was scoring, they looked like they were just running around the defense with no problems. And then the second half, the offense just kind of gave up. It looked like, I know they scored a few goals, but from what we could see while we were watching, most of it was coming from the outside. And they did end up getting a few in-tight goals in the second half, but they just refused to go to the dirty areas in the second half, and they just were not getting the goals and opportunities against Hutchinson in the second half. And they just kind of gave, like the first half, they had a lot of in-tight goals. They looked really good. Second half, they just settled on being on the outside while Halifax was just passing the ball around left and right and getting all these inside opportunities, and the defense was playing very poorly. So, yeah, I don't understand not having the extra defenseman versus an extra forward. And the offense, I don't know what happened in the second half other than Hutchinson. I don't know. We I guess don't know, not having played the game. Does a new goalie really make that much of a difference as far as your approach? I just feel like they weren't getting inside nearly as much, so that shouldn't change. But maybe his tendencies versus Hill's tendencies does switch things up quite a bit. But Hutchinson came in and played incredibly. It was 22 of 27 saves for an 81.5 save percentage, and a lot of that came from simply not going to the dirty areas and not making him work quite as hard. With Hill in the net, they ended up getting 4 of the far goals. With Hutchinson, they only had 2 far goals, so that was kind of the difference for me, is that Hill was allowing a lot of outside shots to go in, and Hutchinson wasn't, and the offense just was not doing enough to get inside. And again, Halifax, a lot of credit to them. They have a very good offense, a very good defense, and to us, I think that the big thing that they seem to be missing is a goalie. And in that second half, after that swap, they had a goalie, and they put it all together, and the Bandits just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to overreact to the offense because we've seen how good they have been.
And 12
They had a
goals is
very
still good. I mean,
Right,
it's
they had
not
a very bad
terrible.
second half. Like this was a game where it felt like they were missing Nanakoke, that guy that can get to the middle of the field, that is willing to get to the middle of the field in front of the goalie and score goals in the second half. And it definitely felt like they were missing him. They were relying too much, and they were relying too much on the outside shot that was working with Hill, but was not working
Right.
with Hutchison. And again, we have never played the game of lacrosse, but when I feel like when you switch a goalie mid-game, it's a wake-up call to the defense saying, "Hey, this is our backup here. We have to play a certain style now. We have to play more aggressive and lock down our roles here and cut down any of these lanes." And yes, Buffalo made it a bit more easy for Hutchinson by shooting all those outside shots, but he's still got to make the saves, and he was able to do that. So for me, I am not worried about the offense. It was a bad second half. Did it contribute to the loss? Yes, big time. And when you're up 8-2, you have to be able to continue to pour it on. And they were able to score 4 goals in the final, 35 minutes, almost 36 minutes. Not ideal for the offense, but it still goes back to the defense for me. And it's been a consistent problem for 6 of the 9 games. You're giving up too many opportunities. You're not playing a full 60, and we have yet to see any adjustments on the defensive end player-wise. Are there adjustments, in style-wise, in scheme-wise? Probably. But when you're rolling out the same players, Matt Spanger was horrible in this game, like beyond horrible. You had Justin Robinson, who peeled off his player who was in front of the net to go double team a player with 7 seconds left on the shot clock. That can't happen. You leave a guy wide open that's just going right in front of Matt Vincent scoring. Those are the type of breakdowns. They can't happen. And those are 2 of your more veteran type players back there. Like if it was Cam Wires that was having these blips all the time, I'd be saying, hey, it's because he's a rookie. Like you got to work out of those rookie pains. But Matt Spanger, that can't be happening. Like he just looked, I don't even know why he was on the penalty kill on that one, where it was just he forgot there was a guy right behind him and didn't even go over there, and it was just an easy snipe for, I think it was Benny. And Benny had, 5 goals in this one? It was, 5 goals. 5 goals, 1 assist, and 10 shots. He was 50% shooting, and you left him all alone. It's just, this isn't the first time Matt Spanger's just been oblivious to players out there. And I'm not trying to just solo focus on him, but those are 2 massive moments. There was 2 plays in there where he just got beat around the end too. It's just something, in my opinion, and it has nothing to do with the coaching staff, it has nothing to do with the front office. So some of the posts and comments where I was seeing people going, oh, something needs to happen in the front office. They just won the championship, so take a break. But something needs to be addressed on the defensive end, whether it's, are these players that have been working to come their way back from the PUP list actually healthy, and you can get them into the lineup for a quick shakeup, like a Frank Brown, like a Zach Belter. I know Adam Bomberry is working his way back. I have no idea. This is not me talking. They're holding Adam Bomberry out. But Zach Belter, he was playing in the open practice in November. It's February. That's almost 4 months. Is he ready? Is Frank Brown ready, who has not played in over a year? We could use some speed and some toughness on the defensive end too as well. It's just, it feels like they're running out the same players and you're getting the same results over and over again. I'm waiting for that changeup. I'm waiting for that trade. I'm waiting for something. And I know it doesn't happen a ton in the NLL because the player pool is only so big. The roster is only so big. You can only do so much. But it's just, it's mind-blowing that you keep running out the same problem after problem after problem. They haven't allowed under 10 goals since the Colorado game or Georgia game, one of the two. I don't remember the order of it, but it's not ideal. They're sitting at 5-4. Season's not over. No real big reason to hit the big-time panic button, but something needs to be addressed on the defensive end because you can't keep relying on the offense to put up 15, 16, 17 points and winning 16 to 14 type games.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, you have in-house options as well. Without making a trade or anything, if these players are possibly healthy, you have potential in-house shake-up options. And even, again, like just the simple act of having an 8th forward versus Carter McKenzie out there.
Right.
Just don't get it. I don't get it. But we can talk about the two aspects of the game. One, I think, is one of the big reasons they lost. The other one, I do not think is a big reason they lost. But we will talk about face-offs now, I guess, because people are all hot and bothered. Panties are in a bunch. I don't know how many times we have to go over this. It's so incredibly annoying to have to talk about faceoffs. Yes, they didn't win a single one. Yes, at the very end of the game, you could tell that they were playing as if they were going to lose a faceoff, and even when there was 48 seconds left, they had to score 2 goals. You could tell they shot within about 10 seconds, which is what I was saying they were going to have to do because you're not going to win that faceoff. So in order to have time left on the clock, you had to shoot extremely quick, which caused a very quick shot and kind of a panic. But other than that, this is not why they lost the game. The shots were only off by 4. 31 supposed extra possessions, if you want to call them that. I don't know exactly if that's how that works. And they had 4 extra shots. So but I just don't get it. I don't get the correlation people make with faceoffs. They see that big number. They see that the Bandits lost 0. Obviously, you want to win some. Yes, that is a very frustrating game to be out faceoffed 31-0. I get it. You want to win some. That's true. And at the end of the game, it did matter that you needed some. But Halifax was able to muster 4 extra shots on 31 faceoff wins. It just wasn't why you lost the game. Plain and simple. They didn't play good enough in the second half to win, and that is not why you lost the game. The other weird thing, though, with faceoffs, 5 players took faceoffs, 3 of them with at least 9 attempts. Dylan Robinson ended up with the most at 11. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if McKay just struggled so early on that they wanted to throw everybody in there. But
McKay wasn't even the first one to take the faceoff, so I think this was designed to just give.
But why?
I think it's more because it's more wear and tear on Ian McKay's body, and you want to give other players out there because you already went into this game. Like, if you would have told me before the game they win 2 faceoffs, I would have said, man, how did they win 2 faceoffs against Jake Withers without a faceoff man? Like, even when you had Max Adler, he struggled against Jake Withers because he's the best in the league. My problem is, and I know you got more to talk about this, but real quick, what I value on faceoffs is not that they're completely worthless. It's that you want to be able to win them when you need to have them win. And you couldn't do it at the end of the game, but it wasn't because of the faceoffs that you lost. 2 times out of their 14 goals, out of their 31 faceoffs, 2 times did a faceoff win result in a goal. 2. That's it. So out of all the goals that were scored, out of all the shots that were taken, 2 times a faceoff win transitioned into a goal on that win. That's it. Like, the people that are seeing, oh, they lost 31 straight, they're just seeing a 0 in front of the 31 and not actually realizing and looking into the other details of it. Like we've been saying for 9 weeks, and I'm not trying to harp on everybody that's complaining about the faceoffs. Whatever, those are just the average fans that are not studying the game like we are. That's perfectly fine. Whatever, be your fandom however you want. But at least, if you want to figure out if faceoffs truly matter, count the goals that are scored because of the faceoffs. And there were 2 of them. Nobody was complaining about the faceoff opportunities when, sorry, there was a plow going by. I thought something was shaking my house. But nobody was complaining about the losses in faceoffs when they were up 8-2. They're only complaining about it because Halifax went on that streak, and it's not because of the faceoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think there's too much more I wanted to add about faceoffs. The bigger issue to me that is a big reason they lost the game was the special teams, again, struggling on both ends in this one. The penalty kill's been pretty great for Buffalo. In this one, they were not, which is a result of just bad defense. And then Buffalo on the power play did not do enough either, but Halifax went 4 of 6 penalties in general. I have not gone back and watched them. I will address that in the article, so I don't know if they were all great calls, bad calls, whatever. Either way, allowing a team to go 4 of 6 on the power play is pretty gross. You ended up losing by 2. You cut some of those opportunities down. You likely win. And then Buffalo going 1 of 4, also pretty gross. If you score, 50%, that's looking much better at 2 and 4, and that's pretty much a big swing in the game. So for me, I don't think faceoffs were the issue they lost. And if you want to point to any glaring, obviously bad stat, I would say the special teams on both sides of this game were not good enough to win.
Yeah, I agree with the special teams. It's been an issue. There was another 5-on-3 in this one, and guess what, Phil? They didn't score.
They did not score.
It's, 3 or 4 times this year now that they've had a 5-on-3, which even the announcers in every game across the NLL say, when it's 5-on-3, it's a guaranteed goal. Not for Buffalo. Not for Buffalo, it's not. But yeah, special teams has been an issue as well. The penalty kill, which started well this season, has kind of struggled. And again, I don't even think it was the dumb penalties that they were taking. It was just everything fell apart on the defensive end. And the third quarter was a massive one. They gave them 3 opportunities on the power play, and they scored, 2 out of 3. It's something. It still goes back to something on the defensive side of the ball has to be adjusted. And I don't know whether it's that you sit down one of your better players to send a message. I don't know if it's one of these PUP guys is actually ready and they're just holding off and not letting them come in because there's just no space. But you would think that when Nanacoke went on the IR, if somebody was actually healthy enough, they would have activated the PUP guys. But maybe they go back to, hey, what happens when Nanacoke's healthy? We're not going to have the room to activate or to maneuver around this, and somebody's going to have to get cut. It almost feels like they're afraid to make a legitimate move with fear of losing a player to the player pool. That's pretty much what it feels like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the PUP guys really aren't ready. But from what I saw in the open practice, and again, that's one time, I don't understand how none of these guys are ready and it's mid-February. Like, that's the biggest confusing to me. And maybe they are out trying to get a face-off guy. Maybe they are trying to talk Adler into coming back. Maybe they are out there looking for a trade out there. But it's frustrating when you see 6 out of the 9 times your defense has been allowing 12 goals a game. It's not a recipe for winning and making the playoffs. And again, it's one game. They're sitting at 5-4. They're sitting in, I think, the 5th or 6th spot in the standings right now. So the world is not falling apart. Like, they're still in a great position to make playoffs. They're still in the top 8. Not worried about them missing playoffs at this moment. But your season's half over. You got 9 more straight weeks of this. Your defense has to improve. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on your offense to score 16, 17 goals to make up for what is lacking on the back end.
Yeah, and it is one of those games where, like you just mentioned, you're 5-4, you're okay, but at the same time, if you win this game, you're 1 loss behind first place and you're in 3rd place, where Halifax currently is. You lost it, and you are actually 6th place and now 2 losses behind first place. So it's not the end of the world, but this is what we were talking about and what Johnny was talking about, where if you win one, they pretty much stay where they're at, and you're right with the top teams. That looks great. Right. You lose one, you drop from 3rd to 6th, and now you're 2 losses away from the top teams, with Albany winning, with Toronto winning, which we'll get to in a second. So terrible week to lose as far as that goes. I mean, Halifax is now obviously in front of you. Toronto is. Albany is. So really, really bad week to lose as far as the standings go. It really dropped you and pushed you pretty far down. But at the same time, they finally have, I believe, is Albany coming up next? Is that who's?
Albany is next, yep.
Okay, well, they don't really get a break then until I think after Albany they start playing some of the lesser teams in the league. Hopefully they can go on a massive run, but you really, really got to win. I mean, again, this is one game where it's not the end of the world. I am also not hitting a panic button. I'm not worried about them making playoffs just yet, but you win this game and you win next week, you're looking at possibly number 2 in the entire league, depending on what Toronto does. Now you lost this one, you're all the way in 6th. You lose again, you're starting to be in trouble all of a sudden. So it's just one of those things where you can't move up much because you're already at the top, but a loss like this and staring down a good team next week is just, it gets really dicey really, really quickly with this league, with how unified standings work. So not panicked, but a win would have been massive at this point in the season.
Yeah, especially because you're facing a team that you're fighting for a playoff seed with, and you only face them once. So now going into it, if you finish with the same record, Halifax has that head-to-head edge over you. That's why it was so massively important to come out of this one with a W. That's why it's so important to win some of these games that with teams ahead of you. Because right now, Albany, they have the head-to-head advantage. I know you play them next week, you can even that up. But Toronto, you have the head-to-head advantage. Halifax, you don't. San Diego, you do. Georgia, you don't. New York, you don't. It's just, that's why these unified standings, and you summed it up perfectly in exactly what Johnny T said, where the wins are great, but they really don't move you in the standings. But the losses hurt so much worse because a lot of these teams you're facing once, and now you don't have the head-to-head advantage against them. So, Phil, it's not ideal. Another loss, like we said, we're not hitting the panic button. The world's not ending. The season's not over. but it is a scenario where they're going to have to work their butts off to get back into a top 4 spot for a home playoff game to start the playoffs. We're not overly concerned, but there are very concerning aspects of this team where they're not being able to play a full 60 and their defense is just lagging behind what the offense has been able to bring. So are we worried about the faceoffs? No. Are we worried about the defense? Big time. And I think that's the way it really should be. If you have a difference of opinions, that's perfectly fine. That's what's great about these sports. But for us here on this podcast, the 31 losses in the faceoffs are not a main reason that they lost, because 2 times out of those faceoff wins resulted in a goal. Otherwise, Buffalo got the ball back after that faceoff loss. So, we'll move on here quick to the milestone
Real
minute.
Quick,
yes.
Before we go on to that, it was you and I were talking about it. It was Drew Hutchinson, not Aiden. And
Yes.
this was the first NLL experience he's ever had.
Oh, even better then.
Was this
go.
game. He's had 9 games with the Thunderbirds as their backup, and his total minutes played was just from this game. He came in and did not look very much like a rookie and played really, really well. So Thunderbirds might have a goaltending controversy, and the Bandits, how you couldn't get to a rookie in his first game ever, little frustrating, but we can move on.
Even better. Put me
Yep.
even better mood there, Phil. So thank you.
Sorry.
Milestone minutes. Remember, we post these on X at Buffalo Sports Co. before each game. There were 3 possibles and only 2 hit. Justin Martin did play in his 100th career NLL game. And Phil, he did it. Dane Smith got his cause turnover, so 100 for his career. I can pull that off of the reading of the milestone minute. Ian McKay needed 20. He got 9. So that will be on the show on Friday.
Yeah, we thought McKay would have gotten it, but they took a different approach to it.
They did. So that will end the Buffalo Bandits segment of this. Before we get into the league aspect, Phil has a bit of something to read.
Yep, we are still rolling with our first sponsor ever, Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda. We were there ourselves for the last game. We enjoyed the 30 rotating taps. A few of them rotated while we were there. They have a variety of beer, cider, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages. We were sitting down enjoying the game with a lot of Bandits fans. There were some dogs there. They are dog friendly, and honestly, the dogs behaved extremely well, so that was really nice to see. Weren't too much of a distraction. There was a ticket giveaway. We did not win, sadly, but that's all right. We have season tickets, so it's okay to go to somebody else, but really great atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. You and I and even our buddy Fraze, who went there, had a different style of going after the drinks. I had a few ounces of a bunch of different ones to try a bunch of new things. He went with his first one that he had never tried and poured himself an entire full glass, and then realized afterwards maybe he should have tasted it first. And I think you went a little
I did the same thing.
half
I
and
did the
half.
same thing.
Yeah,
I did
you
half
just-
and half. I learned
just
from
went
my
for it.
mistake earlier.
Yeah. You guys both started with just a full one and then realized that the idea is to sample it first and then see if you like it. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and remember, every Wednesday they have trivia at 7:30. Karaoke is kicking off soon on Thursdays. Make sure you follow them on Facebook and I believe Instagram as well for any posted events that they have. Really, really like the environment, like the self-pour kind of theme that they got going on. That was my first time ever at a self-pour brewery. Absolutely loved it. And I love the environment for Bandits games where it's, if you're going there, you know that the Bandits games are going to be playing. You know that the sound's going to be on. And I don't think we saw anybody that wasn't a Bandits fan there. So I think they have a niche type of role there for those Bandits Nights games. And absolutely loved it. We didn't get to try out the large patio, but maybe come playoff time, if they have a road playoff game, we'll try to partake in the outdoor patio. But absolutely loved it. Tap That Tap Room. Check them out. Tonawanda. Loved it. A lot more parking than I actually thought there was going to be. We got there a little early because we weren't really sure what the parking situation was, but plenty of spots as well. So make sure you go out and check out Tap That Tap Room for not just Bandits games, but trivia's on Wednesdays as well, and
Sabres
any other
if you're
events.
still into them.
Sabres as well. So there you go. But we'll move back on to the NLL look around. Not going really the Bandits way at all. Toronto took care of New York in the Montreal matchup, the unboxed matchup, 16-10, 7 straight from the Toronto Rock in the early second all the way through the fourth. You had Philly and Las Vegas in the late Friday night game. Philly took care of Las Vegas 10-8, and then the only standalone Saturday game, Albany took care of Colorado 13-11. There is a game on Sunday night, but because of the time we're recording right now, we do not have the results of the Halifax-Calgary game, which Halifax has to travel from Halifaxville, not New York, to Calgary.
Yeah, it was like you mentioned, very unfortunate weekend all around for Buffalo. I mean, losing to Halifax is big. Then Toronto getting the win pushes them farther up. Albany getting the win pushes them farther up. I was really hoping Albany would continue to struggle as they did in their last 2 games since their little losing streak, and Colorado would put it together with their season on the line. They did not. Colorado continues to sink farther and farther. I mean, you want to talk about a panic mode between a team that was just in the championship with the Bandits, and now they are at the bottom of the standing. So, I mean, just take a little look at them compared to the Bandits makes you feel a smidge better about what the Bandits are doing. And then Philly and Vegas, another game where you're trying to pretty much stave off any kind of playoffs that you have, and Philly getting the win is big for them to stay in it. But really close game against 2 middling teams. And then Toronto and New York was going to be a really fun one with that unbox going on. And Toronto, the way they won and the ability that they had, scarier than I would like to admit for them.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto actually put up big time scoring numbers.
Which is
and if you remember on the show on Friday, I said that was one of the main issues that I was seeing from Toronto is with all this offensive firepower they have and the amount of games that Schreiber's played with the offense now, I would have thought they would have figured it out. They figured it out in this one, scoring 16 goals, 7 straight, like I mentioned. Schreiber, only 1 goal, but 8 assists. Mark Matthews, 4, 7, 11. That's the combination that I thought we were going to be seeing all year long between those two, is just setting each other up and setting up other players as well. Dalwick, 2, 4, and 6 for I think it's his 2nd year into the season now. Might be his 3rd, but scores small. Another one. All he does is just score goals, 4 goals. And then Jeff Teat just keeps doing what he's doing, 3, 5, and 8. That's looking good for the breaking the record. But Philly got back into it, 10-8 win over Las Vegas in Las Vegas. Big win for them. The young players for Vegas didn't step up, and when they don't step up, Las Vegas doesn't win, and Philly was able to grab a win in their 3rd game, I think it was, 3rd or 4th game since December, so they've got a ton of games coming up. And then Colorado falling to Albany. Big time back and forth game, close all night, but it was the rookies from Albany bouncing out of their 2-game losing streak and kind of putting another nail in the coffin of Colorado. I mean, Simmons found the scoring touch again. Walker keeps being consistent. Jamison, first game in like 3 or 4 weeks now, coming off the IR. He looked good, and then Colorado they're not getting enough offense, and they're not getting enough saves out of Dylan Ward to continue their fight back into the playoffs. But I think they're sitting at 3-7 now, Phil? Colorado? Yeah, 3-7. Not good with 8 games left on their schedule. They have the highest goals against in the league right now. Not good for Colorado.
No, it is not going well for them. And as far as, like you mentioned, Jeff Teat, if he doubles what he currently has, I think that would break the record if my math. I think he's on pace right now for 136 points and 10 games in. So if he continues doing this, I know he's played 10 games and they only have
slow start,
8 left, but he's doing really well. And then even for Dane Smith, I know we were pretty harsh on the Bandits because we need to be, because they're a championship team, but he is at 50 assists as well, 9 games into the season. So halfway, he is exactly halfway to 100. So I think you had him getting 100 as well.
I did.
To break his own assist record. He is currently on pace. So that is exciting for him. And then him and Josh are still 2-3 in the entire league for points, and they are a game back from Jeff Teat as far as playing. So they are all kind of fighting for that points lead as well. But I don't know, exciting stuff going on around the league. But Colorado, again, look at them and it makes you feel just a smidge better about the Bandits.
It's very fair, very fair. But my bold prediction's looking good. So we'll talk about the Bandits Albany game on the next show. I'll be up in the box for that one. One of the 2 remaining games I'll be up in the box for, but another different vantage point for the BSC. So we'll move on here to our final segment. Buffalo Sabres. Thursday, while we were recording, we were giving updates. I think they were down 1-0 after the first, and they lost this one 4-0. So I think we predicted like 4-1 loss. They didn't even get their 1. Comrie played in this one, 26 of 29 saves because UPL went out and was hurt in this one and couldn't play. 45-30 in favor of the Sabres with shots. And then Saturday versus the Wild, earlier game, I think it kicked off around 5. They lost 3-2, or I'm sorry, they won 3-2 in overtime. Middlestad, Cousins, and Yoki were the goal scorers. UPL back in the net in this one. 30-32 save shots were 32-28 in favor of the Wild.
Yeah, the first game against the Panthers, I mean, it's just a better team beating you. The score is not nearly, it doesn't kind of illustrate how the Sabres played. I mean, 4-0 looks really bad on paper. That really wasn't that bad. The Panthers got 2 really late goals to make it 4-0. One was an empty net. One was just a really late goal. I think the Sabres had kind of given up at that point, but they had some decent opportunities in front of the net, which was great, but Stolarz played really, really well, and obviously the Panthers are just simply a better team than they are, but I thought Comrie even played okay. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad, and it was his first game in a really long time, so I thought he was decent for a backup in that opportunity against a very good team. I thought the Sabres honestly played decent. Really great to see UPL back for the Wild game. He played incredible, and again, the difference between the two, I mean, I know the Wild game was really boring for pretty much the entire first 2 periods and then kind of took off in the third, but you just see the shot difference, 45-30 for the Sabres against the Panthers, but not, I mean, they had a few decent looks they did in front of the net, but overall kind of back to that perimeter, just throw something at the net, not really having a lot of scoring opportunities. And then against the Wild, they get outshot, but end up winning the game. This is something that, I don't know, the team is just kind of working through or figuring out that they don't need to take 50 shots a game in order to win. And oftentimes when they do, they are kind of giving up on their ability to get high danger opportunities. And they kind of switched it again against the Wild and honestly looked pretty good against a decent team and then got the win in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, the first game, you look at the 4-0 score, and I think you said it perfectly. I don't put those on Comrie. I thought Comrie played a very, very solid game for not playing in a game in weeks, and I don't think he started a game since the end of December, I think I saw. But yeah, this is a story, these both games, pretty much, is your top players are not performing. When was the last time Skinner scored? When was the last time Tate scored? Like, Tuck's disappeared. It's just... It's very annoying. That's what's been the issue all season is your star players are not coming up in these games. And I don't know if Tage is playing hurt. I honestly don't. I don't know if Skinner's all the way back either. I don't know if they're playing through nagging injuries. And 54 games into the season, you're going to be nagging something. But it's just I don't understand where your top performers have gone. Like, Tage had, 96 points last year? And he's down at, 30? It's putrid. It's disgusting. Like, that's what the Sabres are. And, going 1-2, losing against the Panthers team early on in the season, it would have been Panthers are the better team. It makes sense. But because of where you are in the standings, every win is that important. You're running out of time. You got 28 games left. Even if you get points out of 20 out of 28, you're still probably not making the playoffs. But I think this is a culmination. These 2 games are the perfect example of when your star players do not score, something is a massive issue. And I'm happy UPL was able to come back immediately on Saturday. I think giving him that rest on Thursday, not pushing it, I think Granato said that he could have played in that game, but they didn't want to push it. I'm happy to see, and I think the effort that you got from Comrie is what you would expect out of a backup goalie, and you got that. It's just none of your star players performed. And versus a team like Florida where you have such bad blood. Remember earlier in the season, Dowling was like, "Hey, meet me 5 minutes from here. I'll beat you up." And it's just nothing really happened. Like it kind of went out like what's the old saying? Come in like a lion, leave like a sheep or something like that. For
lamb.
March.
I don't know.
Yeah, the lamb. They were lambs in that one. But the Wild one, good to see him bounce back. Good to see him bounce back, getting that win. Yoki with the overtime winner. It was a nice bounce back win, but at this point, unless you string more wins together than one in a row, it's not going to happen. I would like to see them try to get back into it, as much as I don't believe they're going to win it. I would just like to see go on a run. And for me, a run is 3 wins in a row, which they still haven't done yet.
Sorry, counting 6 + 7, 13 goals. Is that right?
That
so they've scored 13 goals in their last 5 games. And Skinner, Thompson, and Tuck have 1 goal and 2 assists, 1 assist, and 1 goal and 2 assists. So 3 points is the most in the last 5 games that one of your top scorers has gotten, and they've scored 13 goals. So 10 of the goals that the Sabres have been able to muster, including, I think, Tuck's best game. He went 1-1 in the Sabres 7-0 thrashing of the Kings. So even still, 10 goals, and they just weren't part of them at all. That's not what you're looking for. I mean, if anything, you kind of want it the other way around, where they're part of 10 goals and 3 goals are coming from your depth scoring. But like you mentioned, the top scoring is just not there, and maybe they aren't healthy. But if you're not healthy, I don't know, take a game off. And like you mentioned, it's not even just winning 1 or 2 in a row or 3. You got to win 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, it's not going to happen until we see that kind of change. And I mean, an overtime win is a start, but now you got to win 6 more in a row to make the standings move at all. Because even when we talk about, being, which you're about to go over, but 10 points out of a second wildcard spot, the other teams ahead of you are still playing and winning games. It's not like they just stop playing and you just have to get to 10 points, which the Sabres can't even do that. But they also keep winning. So it's a just ridiculously tough struggle that they have to try to make playoffs. And it's looking like it's pretty much over.
Yeah, and that's why you don't want to fall back too early. And they did that exact thing. 28 games left. They're sitting at 54 games played.
In a row.
Yeah, 52 points in the season. You got Pittsburgh, who's 3 points ahead of them, but 3 games in hand. You got Washington, who's 4 points ahead of them, but 1 game in hand. You got New York Islanders, who are 5 points ahead of them with 1 game in hand. New Jersey is even with them in games played, but they're 8 points ahead. And Detroit, who's in that second wildcard spot, even in games played and 10 points ahead. That's the biggest issue here is you're again, I keep harping on it, but your offense isn't scoring. Like your star players are not scoring. It's not good. And you're looking at the stats here right now. Tuck's got 37 points in the season, 47 games played. That's a decent season. I mean, if he was doing this with the other star players performing, I'd say, okay, he took a small step back, but this is kind of what we expected. Peterka's having a good season, but Skinner, 17-17 in 46 games, not good enough. Tage Thompson, 31 points, 15 goals, 44 games played, not good enough. Dylan Cousins, 31 points, 11 goals, 51 games played, not good. The only ones that I'm really happy about are Middlestad and Peterka. And Middlestad is one of those ones that you've been hearing on and off. They're shopping him, but Kevin Adams kind of squashed those rumors of him saying that he's not really shopping, but he's listening to offers. If you move Middlestad out of this lineup, what does this team even look like, Phil? Like, he's been your best forward all season long, minus Peterka. It's just, this team has just not had players step up. They haven't had rookies down in Rochester play and be able to make an impact in this lineup. You had Rosine, who played in 7 games, no points. Ruzek played in 5, no points. Kulik played in 1 game, no points. Savoy's 1 game, no points. It's just, it's frustrating. And you're seeing rumors about Peyton Krebs getting traded as well before he even gets an opportunity to play with the big boys. It's just, I don't understand some of these decisions, Phil, and it's getting real annoying. And the thing I was hoping for the most was some type of change going into this episode. Nothing. So I'm going to push that to the next show. Maybe we'll get some change and new faces into this lineup before next show. I doubt it, but maybe. That's my biggest hope.
Yeah, they are, it looks from my really quick math, they're 6th worst in the entire league in scoring, and yet they're only -8 in goal differential, which shows you your defense and goaltending is not the issue. Like, the fact that you are really, really bad at scoring and you're only 8 goals away from being even in goal differential, it's just your offense is not picking your team up, and your defense is doing the best they can to hang in there, but the offense is just doing nothing. Like you mentioned, we'll see what happens as it gets closer to the trade deadline and whatnot, and what actually ends up going down, because a lot of this is just rumor season, and we'll see what happens. But I don't know. I definitely don't think you can get rid of Mittelstadt, because, like you said, he's all you have right now, and who knows if these players are going to rebound next season. Hopefully they do, but right now he's your only consistent player, so you get rid of him. What does this team look like?
Yeah, agreed. So, Phil, is there anything else you would like to add to this episode before we shut it down, which was a smaller and, less lengthy episode, which is nice for a change?
It is. I have to go snowblow on Sunday with the lovely weather. I'm just really dreading it because the wind blows across my driveway where I need to throw the snow, so I'm just going to be getting smacked in the face with a lot of snow. So I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's we're getting pounded here, and I know we're different counties, different cities, minutes away, but this wind is blowing sideways, and I do not envy you. I'm not going to touch the driveway until tomorrow. Like, it's not going to happen.
Well, some
I'm
of
not
us
gonna
aren't
go out there
off.
and deal with it.
First
Well,
off.
that helps. Yeah, that helps. Brooke's not off, but I'm not touching the driveway for her. Like,
Yeah, where
deal with it.
the drifts are because of the wind, the drifts have gotten pretty tall, like in the center of the driveway. So I got to go knock that down, sadly. And there's other parts of the driveway I can still see the cement, but the drifts are too large to let go, sadly.
I haven't even looked yet, so to be honest with you, I
Well,
haven't
you don't
even...
have to, and you're lucky.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to be going to Target right now. Not your Target, different Target. So we'll see what happens. But Phil and everybody else, on our next episode, we'll break down the Bandits versus Albany game. I'm not saying it's a must-win, but
They better win.
pretty much a must-win, Phil. You can't drop both games to Albany and fall back to 500 with 8 games to go. Can't happen. You need to win in Bandit Land on Saturday.
Have
We'll
a
go over
massive
this.
rebound.
Yeah, we'll go over the Sabres games that will be transpiring from now until Friday, and then anything else that breaks, we'll cover it. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Look for Phil's article breaking and releasing tomorrow on the Halifax Bandits game, and then my power rankings drop on Thursday. Check for those then. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye bye.